Welcome to Dylan's Dialogues, a podcast for storytelling and reflection, not professional advice or therapy. Mental health matters, so if you're struggling, please reach out to your local crisis line for support. And remember, you're not alone. Enjoy the show. Hi there. Welcome back to Dylan's Dialogues. Last episode, it was raw and potentially difficult for some of you to see and hear. The wise friend that I mentioned in that episode said, Dylan, get rid of the outlines and just start talking. She's like, you have the gift of gab and you just need a free flow, conversational, and stop with these outlines. So here goes. I'd like to first, start off with an apology for kind of how choppy things have been. I don't quite have my podcasting rhythm yet. It'll come. I'm sure of it. Bear with me. I appreciate your patience. So last thing is my dog. So I have a 70-pound German Shepherd that we call Z, and she is adorable. She also has high anxiety and she likes to be right near me all the time. And so you will hear her. You will hear her ticky-tacky claws on the laminate and tile floor. You're going to hear her in and out, standing up, panting, breathing, barking. So there's that. So on to the show. Whew. Today's episode is Glimmers and Gallows. And I'll get to that. I'll get to the name and what that means to me in a bit. But first, the gallows. The last 2 weeks has been tough. It's been tough for me. I wrote a piece about it, which I'll share in the show notes if you care to read it. But it explains that this decision to quit school was not a decision that came to me lightly, and that sometimes in life we make decisions and we just know that they are life-changing decisions, I mean, we make decisions all day, every day. What are we going to wear? And are we going to work out? And what do we want for dinner? And sometimes we make profound decisions that change the trajectory of our lives. And that's what I did 2 weeks ago. I made a life-changing decision. And I've been dealing with the grief, the despair, the sadness of that decision. It's been tough. I've been really low. Matter of fact, I recorded some moments, some real, raw, authentic moments that I'll share in this episode because they're human. They're human moments. And that's really what I want this podcast to be about. It's about me having a platform to tell my story and heal from my trauma and helping others hopefully not feel alone and heal as well. And it's also about just being real and raw and the human experience. Because, whilst our specific situations might be different, the universality of what sadness feels like or what grief feels like, loss, despair, excitement, joy, love, we all, at some time or another could feel any number of these emotions or mixtures of these emotions. And so that's what I want to share. That's what I want to convey. And that's what I was going through this weekend. Okay. I'm sitting in my therapy chair, although I moved my tissue. I'm having a moment. I'm sitting here trying to write. I started writing about my book, went off on a research idea. That's what I do. I think about research. It's kind of crazy, right? Who sits around and thinks about research? It's such a strange thing. I'm so sad. Because I didn't always feel this broken. A little background to maybe help you understand why it was so foundation shaking for me is I was born and raised in a doomsday religious cult. And it had profound implications on my life. And I'm still discovering ways that this has affected me. But one of the ways is with education. They were not an organization that promoted higher education or really education at all. Because when I call them a doomsday religious cult, what I mean, and I'll have other podcast episodes that go into this a little deeper, but for the intent and purpose here, what you need to understand about it is that focus was not on education. It was on the new system is what they called it, or the next, like basically the next life, and that this one was really a means to an end. And so this life, in all of its trappings and worldly things, is meaningless, really, and other than just devoting your time and attention to, the cult activities. So growing up, I was not raised with this idea that education was important. Um, and I wasn't a good student because of it. I was taught that, it was meaningless, really, education. What's the point? So I wasn't a good student and I didn't finish high school. But I can remember, I've been calling this a 25-year goal of mine to get my bachelor's degree, but really it goes back further than that. Freshman, sophomore year, I had only finished through my sophomore year. But I remember somewhere in there, my friends were starting to talk to counselors and teachers about classes that they needed or wanted to take to help them get into XYZ college. And, they started talking about the various colleges that they wanted to try to apply to and what they wanted to study in college. And that was all very foreign to me. Secretly, I was envious and I wished that I could be a part of what it was they were a part of, but I wasn't. And I didn't know how to be. And I didn't even really understand what college was and what the purpose was and why they were going. And so I put up this protective wall that said, well, I'm the lucky one because school is stupid and I don't have to keep going to school now. But the idea is that this has been a longer goal than just 25 years. I say 25 years because it became more of a formal goal 25 years ago. I got my associate's degree, my first associate's degree in medical assisting in 2000. And, that came about because I got pregnant. I was 22, I was 23 when I had my son, and I had this tiny human that I needed to take care of. And I thought, well, what in the hell am I going to do to take care of him? How am I going to make money? So I decided to go back to school. In order to do that, I first had to go back and get my GED. And I'll touch more on that a little bit later in this story. But for now, I went and got my GED and then I went to college. And by the time I entered college, my son was around 8 months old. I went to school, I got my associate's degree. I was the first one in my immediate family of origin to graduate at all from college. And I was proud. I was proud of myself. And so begins this journey of my wanting a bachelor's degree. And I was doing it, right? I quit my job a year ago. I went back to the local JC to get my associates for transfer. And I graduated in May with actually two associate's degrees. One, an associate's for transfer in psychology, and then another associate's. I think it's arts, humanities, and social sciences. And I applied and was accepted to not only the university but the honors program. And oh my gosh, what an honor! I was so honored by that. And there was an element of prestige that went along with it that I haven't felt before. The fact that I was smart enough to be accepted and the idea of graduating with honors, it just did something for me. It was like, I have these I think in psychology they call it like self-efficacy moments where if you look back on things that you've done well, then it will help you see that you can continue to do other things well. And so I think those things started adding up. It's like, oh, well, I got one associate's degree and I had a pretty good GPA, and then I got two more associate's degrees and I kept my GPA up, and now I've been accepted in a university and then accepted into the honors program. So, wow, I'm doing it. I'm doing this until I wasn't, until I wasn't. And that's been profoundly difficult. The grief set in, the despair, the sadness, the disappointment, the frustration, the missed opportunities, the things that I experienced that were good, and the things that I imagined for myself, you know? So this loss has been a profound loss for me. And it's taken me some time to move through it. It's been difficult. I I liken it to a hole. Like picture a deep, deep, deep well, and you're just surrounded by this damp earth, and it's cold and dreary and dark. That's where I've been. I titled this episode Glimmers in Gallows because the hole is the gallows, right? But the glimmers are the ray of light that when you look up, you're in the hole and you look up and you see a ray of light, even the smallest bit of ray of light. And it shows the little sparkly particles that only you can see in the light, right? The dark doesn't allow you to see them, but the light does. And so glimmers represent all of that. They represent the light, they represent hope, they represent warmth, they represent direction. Finding these moments of hope in despair, right? And so whilst I'm just heavily grieving this loss of identity and loss of meaning and loss of purpose, I'm also having some of these experiences that I want to share with you that also gave me hope. And I decided to walk Z. And we're walking along, and before you know it, I, normally will put my AirPods in and I'll listen to a podcast or something. But this day I decided I'm going to listen to music. And before I knew it, I was dancing. I was just dancing on the sidewalks like nobody was watching. And if you know me, you know I love dancing. So this may not be completely surprising, but to just be kind of skipping along and dancing literally like no one's watching in the middle of my neighborhood, not something I usually do. My neighbors are really used to me walking my dog, but not dancing with my dog along the sidewalks. So they might have wondered if I had smoked something. And so then all of a sudden, I looked down. Z had kind of paused. I wondered why. What's going on with her? And I look up, and there's these sprinklers that are shooting across the sidewalk. And so there's no way around it. We're either gonna go through it and get wet, or we have to go like out into the street. And so in this playful kid-like manner, I looked at her and I said, "Are you ready?" And she got all excited and her tail started wagging, her ears perked up, and we ran through the sprinklers. And it was so fun, kid-like fun. And afterwards, I just took a moment to just think about that space and time in that moment. It was a beautiful day. The sun was shining. It was warm on my skin. We'd just been splattered with a little water, laughed out loud, danced like no one was watching. And I literally took a moment and like held my arms up like this and was like, just taking it all in and twirled. I just twirled. I started twirling. And it was a beautiful moment amidst a lot of dark moments. And this is what I'm calling glimmers in Gallows. And I think my ability to appreciate that moment amidst the dark ones is what's important, right? Because it's what's pulling me out of the hole when I get into the hole. And I fear that due to my traumatic upbringing and the complex PTSD and symptoms related that I deal with, I think that I will continue struggling with trauma responses. I think my decision to leave school was in part a trauma response, or at least reflex. Some of it was triggered by trauma. Some of the things that were going on, I don't handle well due to trauma. And my tendency to become depressed and low and get in the hole is also trauma. And I'm working on these things. You know, I see a general therapist and I also see a trauma therapist. I'm part of a group, trauma group called RRP, or Relationship Recovery Process. All of these things are helping, and I've made, you know, they call it post-traumatic growth. And I will continue to grow. And I have moments of being in the gallows. And I think a lot of people do. I don't think you need trauma, right? It doesn't help to have trauma, but I think a lot of people go through, indecision or making decisions and ruminating about it and second guessing themselves or feeling compelled to make a decision, even if it's not the decision they really want, but that they feel forced to because it's what feels right. And I think that's where I was with this. It's like this wasn't the decision I wanted to make. I think that's what made it so difficult. It's like everything in my life has led to this point. What am I doing? Why am I walking away from it? But it wasn't feeling right. It wasn't feeling good. It was causing a lot of distress in my body. And I honored that, you know? And I guess in a way you could call that a glimmer. So yeah, I had this glimmer moment of walking my dog, running through sprinklers, dancing like no one was watching. And then I had a few more this weekend. I got to play pickleball with my wife, and she and I, we complement each other well. There's kind of this thing between us that we say that we aren't sick of each other yet, you know. Um, she is so loving and patient and kind and supportive. And I'm so grateful to her. So grateful to have her. And she knew that I was down this weekend, and so it's kind of funny. We thought about like, what do we want to do this weekend? And there were infinite possibilities, and we settled on scrapbooking. Um, there's a little story that goes to that too. So when I went back to get my GED, there was this old elementary school that was converted into a daycare slash GED center. And so I would be in one classroom studying for my GED, and my son was in another classroom in this daycare, and you could pop in, in between breaks and visit, and it was a really cool setup, and I actually loved that place. And I was invited to um, a creative memories scrapbooking party where you bring some photos and they give you a page that you're going to basically decorate. And so my very first scrapbooking page was decorating of him graduating into the next class. And I was hooked. From then on, I knew that I was going to scrapbook his life. And so I started taking pictures with intention of like, oh, I'm going to put this in the book. I'm going to put that in the book. And well, one book turned to four books. And I've been saying, like, especially now that we're in the digital age, like, okay, I want to finish these scrapbooks and be done with it so that I can get rid of all these supplies and get rid of all these loose pictures and get them in books, yada, yada. So, anyway, in the process, my wife also joined me in this idea of scrapbooking. She had done a book for her daughter and then started working on one for her son, and she hasn't gotten it finished. So we both kind of came upon this like, let's just stay home and scrapbook for the weekend. And it was amazing. It was so amazing. I was so grateful. Not only did I get to spend quality time just hanging out with her, but we got to laugh and reminisce about various pictures that we were coming upon. It really made me realize I did better with my son. I wasn't perfect, and I know he has his own traumas. We all do, right? Um, but I gave him the best life that I could. And those pictures, they're proof. They're proof of it. They show a smiling, happy child who got to experience a shit ton of stuff. I mean, that kid was in every sport you can imagine, formal and informal. And we got to go all kinds of places and spend time at the beach all the time, and go up to the mountains and go snowboarding, or go out on the water and go jet skiing and tubing. I mean, there are so many memories and so many things that we've gotten to do. We went on so many camping trips, and when I grew up camping, it was a place that was kind of like a KOA style. But out here we camp in the mountains, and just it gave me validation and reassurance that I did right by him. I did the best that I could, and I gave him the best life that I could, and I exposed him to so many things. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful that when he was 3.5, I was able to move us out to where we are now in California. And coming from Ohio, it's a big move. And another life-changing decision that I made that I'm so grateful for now. In hindsight, I look back, and sure, I had my moments then of pondering, did I make the right decision? But never regretted leaving. Never regretted leaving, and never regretted getting my son out of the entangled enmeshment of my family of origin. Another glimmer. I had no idea when I sat down to scrapbook that it would be such a profound moment for the weekend, but it really was. And lastly, this podcast. I'm a fucking podcaster. I created a podcast, and it's on YouTube and Spotify and Apple and where else? Amazon, iHeartRadio. I mean, I I can't even believe it when I look it up. Oh my gosh, I did this. I created this, and I'm still creating it. And you're a part of it with me. And that's amazing. And um another glimmer. Another glimmer. So, with that, if I scared you in the last episode, I didn't mean to. I just wanted to show you some real, raw, vulnerable human moments. I appreciate the love and support for those of you that checked in on me. Shout out to my general therapist for checking in on me. And just know I'm doing okay. I'm okay. And I'll be okay. And new opportunities are unfolding. I don't have it all worked out, but who does, right? The only thing certain is uncertainty. So I guess we just all have to sit with that. So until next time, be safe and be well. Thanks for listening to Dylan's Dialogues. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and share your thoughts in the comments. You can find me on Instagram at Dylan's Dialogues. And if you're looking for the full video experience, view the podcast on Spotify or check out my YouTube channel at Dylan's Dialogues. If you'd like to connect with me directly, you can email me at dylanallen2024@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening.